TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. The remains of Tanzanian hostage Joshua Loitu Mollel have been released by the Islamist Hamas terror organization and returned to Israel for burial. Parents of Israeli hostages who were returned to Israel pledged to fight on until the very last hostage is returned to Israel. U.S. President Donald Trump says many countries are lining up to join the Abraham Accords. A coffin containing the remains of a murdered hostage that was delivered by the Islamist Hamas terror organization to the Red Cross and then escorted by IDF troops crossed the border into the state of Israel last night. And after the completion of the identification process by the Israeli National Institute of Forensic Medicine this morning, IDF representatives informed the family of Joshua Loitu Mollel that his body has been returned for burial. Joshua, a 21-year-old Tanzanian agronomy student, came to Israel for agricultural training. He was murdered by the Islamist Hamas terror group on October 7th of 2023, and his body was taken captive from the dairy farm at the southern Israeli community of Nachal Oz. He is survived by his parents and 4 siblings. Separately, in the central Israeli city of Kfar Saba, Israeli President Yitzhak Herzog attended the funeral of the late Staff Sergeant Oz Daniel, whose remains were returned to Israel on Tuesday night for burial in Israel. President Herzog, who recounted the bravery of Sergeant Oz, pointed out that his name, which translates in Hebrew to might or courage, was truly reflected in the courageous actions he undertook on the battlefield.
When I think about your wonderful name, Oz, after all, you were all courage and daring, both in your decision to enlist in my fight and be a warrior, and in your determined stand on that bitter and hasty day with your friends, a stand that is anything but self-evident. And at the same time, I think of the name Daniel, the one in the den of bloodthirsty lions. There are not many figures in the Bible and Jewish tradition who symbolize courage, devotion to purpose, and faith in the righteousness of the path, from Daniel. And, indeed, you truly embody this wonderful mix of Oz and Daniel. May we merit, in the spirit of Oz's name, that the Lord grant our people courage, and may the Lord bless our people with peace. May the soul of the hero of Israel, First Sergeant Oz Daniel, be bound in the bundle of life forever, and in the building and repairing of the land we may find comfort.
Meanwhile, the parents of the deceased hostage, Itai Chen, who was returned to Israel for burial on Tuesday night, pledged to fight on for the release of all hostages from Hamas captivity.
My heart is broken. There is no joy in receiving your child for their eternal rest. But there is relief. There is rest for the soul, mine and his. All the families of the fallen hostages are entitled to at least the minimum. So this is from the state of Israel. A grave for their loved ones.
Now, after we have him finally, we have that opportunity to sit the Shiva, which we will after the funeral. We didn't fight only for Itai, not only for the 255 families, but for the soul and principles of the Jewish state that we believe in.
It's worth noting that Israel and the Islamist Hamas are reportedly holding indirect negotiations over the terms under which Israel might allow an estimated 150 Hamas terror operatives who are trapped below the ground in IDF-controlled territory safe passage into the Hamas-controlled part of the Gaza Strip. According to informed sources, Israel is indirectly negotiating with Hamas vis-à-vis the lives of 150 terrorists in exchange for the remains of the late Hadar Goldin, who was taken captive by the Islamist terror group during Operation Protective Edge on August 1st of 2014. IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir stressed earlier this week that if the political leadership were to decide to allow the terrorists safe passage out of the area, this would only be done after Goldin's body is returned. The prevailing assessment is that some of the terrorists who are holed up in the tunnels in the southern Gazan town of Rafah have information about the location of the late IDF officer's body. Consequently, IDF officials argue that they must not be allowed to go free without Goldin's body first being returned to Israel, which in any event is an integral part of President Donald Trump's peace plan, which Hamas and its regional patrons have agreed to. Meanwhile, Israel is calling upon the patrons of the Islamist Hamas to force the terrorist organization to abide by President Donald Trump's outlined peace plan.
The mediating countries must insist on the full execution of the framework and hold Hamas accountable for its violations that continue throughout this week. On Tuesday, another terrorist was identified crossing the yellow line and approaching IDF soldiers in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, posing an immediate threat to them. After identification, the terrorist was eliminated in order to remove that threat. Israel maintains the responsibility to defend our forces within the ceasefire agreement. And since the ceasefire came into effect, IDF soldiers identified a compound that has rockets, launchers, and launch positions that all belong to Hamas, the terror organization in northern Gaza. An underground tunnel route spanning hundreds of meters long and tens of meters deep was located in the area of Jabalia, which was dismantled by our soldiers.
The PMO spokeswoman went on to address repeated allegations by UN bodies that Israel was allegedly preventing the steady flow of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip.
Israel continues to facilitate the entry of hundreds of trucks of aid entering the Gaza Strip on a daily basis as we continue to uphold our side of the ceasefire agreement. Israel is upholding the agreement to the letter. Unfortunately, the United Nations are incorrectly stating that there is not enough aid going into Gaza. Just a quarter of the aid currently entering Gaza is from the United Nations. The UN is often unaware of other agencies, and despite the UN statements and rhetoric, they're ready to scale up and increase aid. This has not been matched by the reality on the ground. The UN has not scaled up its operation. Meanwhile, trucks continue to flow in and out of the Kerem Shalom crossing on a daily basis. For journalists who are hearing from the United Nations and other agencies that not enough aid is getting into Gaza, we ask that you question the rhetoric that, quote, Israel is stopping aid. This rhetoric is designed to raise more funds, but does not match the reality on the ground, which is that Israel is upholding their side of the agreement.
Turning to the East Coast city of Miami in Florida, where U.S. President Donald Trump, in remarks to the America Business Forum, reiterated his belief that peace in the Middle East is a done deal.
Most important of all, for 4 weeks ago, and this is very important, we brokered the historic peace deal that ended the war in Gaza, and it's a serious end, too. You know, I read a lot of people, oh, it's very tenuous. Jared and Steve, I don't think it's tenuous. Do you? I hope it isn't, because otherwise I'll have to cross it off. I'll have to say I only ended 7. But that was a tough one. That was a tough one. But there's nothing tenuous about it. It's a serious end. Gaza has been a disaster for so many years, and I think it's an end. I think you're going to see some tremendous things happening. We just had a meeting just before I got up, and some great things are happening. And with Israel and peace in the Middle East, it's amazing, actually, what they've done. And what you two guys have done have been incredible.
President Trump continued by highlighting that many countries were lining up to join the so-called Abraham Accords, while further noting, in the presence of the Saudi ambassador to the United States, Rima bint Bandar al-Saud, that he believes the next country to join the Accords and normalize relations with Israel would be the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
We have a lot of people joining now the Abraham Accords, and hopefully we're going to get Saudi Arabia very soon, but I'm not saying that. I'm not lobbying. No, but we have a lot of people. We have a lot of people that are coming aboard. You know, the key was when we took out the nuclear capability of Iran, all of a sudden everybody said, wow, that was nice. They've been wanting to do that for 20 years. Saudi Arabia's ambassador to the United States, Princess Rima, thank you very much. Please stand up. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to thank you if you are a supporter of TV7 Israel, since your donation essentially helps us produce our daily news updates from here in Jerusalem. If you haven't yet supported TV7 Israel, please consider doing so. You can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. It is important to note that TV7 Israel is exclusively donation-based. Separately, as ever, pray for our brothers and sisters facing persecution globally, along with prayers for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.